The reviews are in, and we're going to tell you what they are. He's Todd Vandenberg, I'm Rob Steele, and welcome to 2019. Because, things are so much different now that we got rid of that bit of the 8 and turned it into a 9. I guess. I don't know. We're going to have, we got 4 movies today, and one of them is really, really old. Just because I had never gotten around to seeing the original movie the original version, I guess, of the movie Metropolis, which has got some imagery that I've seen. It's been in a ton of everything, just in backgrounds or foregrounds. I remember it being the main bit of the Radio Gaga video by Queen back in '86 or whenever the hell that was. So I said, you know what? I'm going to watch this movie, and I found a restored version of it. No, not the one with the rock music. It's a silent film.
Right. And
I've not done silent films before, and they're weird.
Yeah.
Near as I can tell, and bear with me, Todd's going to have to help me out with this one, because this movie had a lot of imagery that I didn't get. There's a guy named Fredder, or John Fredder, or Apple Fredders. I don't know. He's the son of a guy who runs the big above-ground city where all the rich people live. Mm-hmm. But he fell in love with a woman named Maria who came to the surface world, I'm guessing. I couldn't really tell what she did, because when she first popped up with a bunch of kids who looked like they should have been in a Little Orphan Annie background somewhere.
Yes.
So maybe she ran an orphanage. I'm not sure. He follows her into the underground world where all the people who actually work for a living live. Above ground rich, underground. There's imagery there. I get that one. When they get underground, they find out that she's a priest, kind of, and teaching the word of the Bible, which almost made me go, yeah, you know what, never mind. No, I stuck with it because we watch movies so you don't have to, because I'm not a religious person. That's fine. You'll also notice I haven't mentioned any actors' names because they're all dead. You can't see any of them now anyway.
This movie's over 90 years old, so there you go.
Yeah, it's... So the father of Fredder, who has gone underground to get Maria, goes and finds this crazy mad scientist guy who was apparently also in love with Fredder's mom, or the mayor's... You can tell I'm struggling with this because it's weird.
It is weird.
They were in love with the same woman. She chose the mayor guy, but she died, possibly in childbirth. That wasn't entirely clear. The mad scientist guy, who looks like Mad Thinker from the Fantastic Four comics of the 60s, very strange, created a robot that he says looked like her. Really? Did it? She was metallic. All right, fine. So the mayor guy says, no, you have to get my son back. So they're going to kidnap Maria and make the robot look like Maria and drag him back to the surface, apparently. But when they do that, they said, we have to test the robot to see if she's as alluring as everything, as alluring as Fredder thinks she is. And so they take her to... Was it a strip club? I didn't quite get what she was doing there. She did like this, and I'm honest when I say this. I've never been to a strip club because I've never seen the point.
And you have to remember, this would be a strip club
in the 20s.
In the 20s in Germany.
That's right. It's also German. Fun.
The movie was set in the 20s, of course, but I mean that's the context that they were making the film in. So a little different. She
did this. I'm going to call it a dance. I'm not sure if it was or not. It was just a lot of it seemed like, all right, we've got this marionette of this woman, and we seem to have tied all the strings in a knot, and we're trying to undo them, and that's the kind of dance she does. But apparently it turns on all the men, a lot of whom look like creepy thin man from the Charlie's Angels remake.
I'm thinking that it's probably more of a burlesque show or a cabaret. So
it was kind of that's probably a better way of putting it. But you know what? As much as I'm knocking the movie and having a lot of trouble getting through the plot, which I don't get, I'm actually going to kind of recommend this movie for the main reason, I guess, being production value.
Yeah.
Because the production of this movie in 1927 is spectacular.
Yes.
There are movies I saw coming out as recently as last year, and I have to say last year now because it's 2019 and I haven't seen any movies that came out this year. There are movies that came out in 2018 that didn't have the kind of production value this does. And there's a ton of imagery that is just beautifully done. If you find a colorized version, don't watch it. This needs to be in black and white.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can't see it working. I know you're going to look at a lot of the machinery that's going on in the background and going, that shouldn't work, or I've no idea what that does or why they're doing the way they're doing. But it's there, and it's put together beautifully, even if it doesn't make sense.
It is.
So
It is absolutely beautiful. The plot is, there's two plot lines going on. It's the workers versus, it's a class battle. It's the haves versus the have-nots, and the workers live underground in terrible conditions, which we'll get there soon enough. And of course, then it's the son wanting Maria, and that's going to break class law, so that can't happen. So that's that's an old story as well, even in 1927. But it's a classic story, and again, silent films are hard to follow. Especially they have intertitle cards, but still they're difficult to follow. I like silent films. I like a lot of silent films, a lot of Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin. But you nailed it. Absolutely, this is about the production value and about all these iconic images that were created here. You mentioned how the mad scientist looks like the mad thinker in the Fantastic Four, and of course, and I know obviously it's the other way around.
Yeah,
it's like the prototype of the mad scientist. And the giant machines, yet they still need all the workers to run the giant machines to keep society going. And they're just trapped down there with the machines, and all the kids look like orphans because they really have very little. It is a great story, but basically you're just picking it up through all the images. And like you mentioned, the iconic image of the robot becoming, when they hook Maria up to transfer her into the robot, it's like absolutely classic.
You'll look at that and go, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
You probably have. And this is where it came from.
Exactly. You've probably seen the exact sequence. And if you haven't, you've seen countless science fiction movies that pull from that trope. It's an all-time classic. Fritz Lang, the director, directed a lot of terrific movies. M, which is about a child killer who was pursued by the underworld. He did that just a couple years after Metropolis. But it's not easy to get through.
No,
but absolutely, it's worth it. Just dedicate
at least
some time.
Once,
and probably twice, because you'll get more out of it when you watch it a second time. I'm not saying back to back because that's crazy, but
Yeah, it's not short. It's a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, which is unusual for that time period too. But definitely a great movie to watch. And like you said, 90. I guess now it's 92 years old. So.
And you see, for me, it was one of those things, because I read Isaac Asimov back from his old stuff, which was in the 30s. But back in the 30s, writing about positronic brains and sci-fi stuff that we didn't get in mainstream sci-fi until the late 80s, early 90s. This is the same kind of thing. It's that far advanced of everything else.
Exactly. And again, it's got the story of the society too. As
which
a big backdrop.
We're about to start it again. Yay.
Yeah. So we've got the dystopian society thing, and you've got the robots and transference of people into robots,
which for some reason involves a lot of boiling water. I noticed.
Yeah, it does.
I haven't quite figured that out. There's a lot of. It's the mad scientist scene, which I've never understood in any aspect, where they go, oh, we're going to move this from here to here, and they twist knobs and flip switches, and all of a sudden everything in the background starts boiling. You go, okay.
Boiling is impressive.
I guess it's a thing. I don't know. Anyway, you can watch this movie on Fandor, which is not the guy from the Herculoids. It's a streaming service. Amazon Prime has it, iTunes, Google Play. You can buy it on YouTube, although I'm sure you can probably also find it on YouTube without having to buy it.
Yeah.
Although I don't recommend that because that's illegal. Don't do it. Yeah. Anyway.
And
but it's not on...
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say it's not on Netflix, but that's okay. There's plenty on Netflix you can watch, as exampled by the 3 movies Todd's got. He's outdoing himself already this year.
There is plenty on Netflix to watch. I'll start with the most recent thing that I watched, because it's the most recent release on Netflix. It's Watership Down. It is a 4-part miniseries. Each of the segments is 51 minutes, except for the one that's 50. So be prepared to devote 203 minutes to watching this. I'll preface this by saying Watership Down has been done before, an animated version, which was really good. A little violent, but it's a violent story. Some people are upset that it wasn't great for kids, but death is part of life. Death happens in the book, so death should happen in the movie, so get over it. This is my favorite book of all time, Watership Down. I've given away, 6 or 7 copies of it. I personally have 3 copies of it still right now, because I'll forget that I have a copy and I'll buy another copy to make sure I have one, and then I find another in a box. And I've read it probably about 12, maybe 15 times. If you don't know the story, it is about a group of rabbits that have to leave their home and find a new home. So they're on a journey, and they have to create their new home, and they go across a lot of obstacles along the way. The newest version, which again is done in partnership with BBC and Netflix, really, really good. I don't think it's great, because even though it's 2 hours, even though it's an hour and 40 minutes long, 2 hours and 40 minutes long, sorry, can't do the math right. Still can't do the math right. 3 hours and 20 minutes. Finally got the math right. 3 hours and 20 minutes long for the whole thing.
Sorry, I was looking for my calculator.
Yeah, finally got the one in my head working. So yeah, it's a little long, but again, it's in 4 episodes, so you can break it down over whatever time frame you want. It does a really good job of following the book. Makes a few changes, because again, even at that length, you're not going to get everything in the book. They made a couple of unnecessary changes to me, which pissed me off. There is a big part of the climax that they foreshadow too much by basically telling you, oh, this is what's going to happen, which really sucks, because it takes away from the scene when it does happen. And the aftermath of that scene, they changed that a little bit, just for no freaking reason. So not sure what the hell they were thinking there. If you haven't read the book, it won't be any problem whatsoever, because they're still really well done. It's just that they were better in the book.
You get that a lot, though.
You do get that a lot. Again, it's like, why make changes which there's no need whatsoever to make this change? It was just a stupid choice. An odd thing is the animation quality is very good. The rabbits, and it's not like photorealistic, but thank God they didn't let Andy Serkis anywhere near it and do mocap rabbit faces, for God's sakes. The rabbits look good. The rabbits look like rabbits. One weird thing, though, is there's a cat and a dog in the film. They're important. The animation on those, it looks like, hey, we got a weekend. We forgot to do the cat and the dog. I have no idea why. But the cat and the dog look like they belong in another movie. It's like you're watching a Disney movie now, or a Disney movie from the 40s, and they inserted 2 characters from Disney movies in the mid-'60s when the animation was like a very different level. Like, not.
Look, it's Woody Woodpecker and Daffy Duck. What are they doing here?
Yeah. Not really sure why that happened. Because, like I said, the rabbits, very good representation of rabbits. And yes, they do talk. And it would be hard to watch if they didn't talk in English, so they talk in English. But they still act basically like rabbits would act, which is the book. Despite my caveats here and there, really recommend this. No, it's not as good as the book. But since when has a movie ever been as good as your favorite book, whatever your favorite book is? It's not going to happen. But I actually think this is a better version of the animated one, which came out, I think, 1978. It's been a while since it came out.
That sounds right.
That's very good. This is even better, I think. It gives you more of the story. Great voice cast. James McAvoy plays Hazel. Ben Kingsley is in it. Really, really good cast. Very well played. Highly recommend Watership Down. Just make sure you have 3 hours and 20 minutes total time to watch it. But again, it's 4 episodes, so you can break it up however you need to. The next thing I watched, which is actually previous, but it's the next thing I'll talk about, Birdbox. By this point, you have probably heard of Birdbox. You may not have seen it, but you've heard about it because I was talking about this at work with a friend of mine the other day. For some reason, Birdbox has taken over the internet. There are like dozens of memes about Birdbox. So people know about the movie, have never seen the movie, but they know about it because of the memes. No idea why, but it's just one of those things. The internet has latched onto it. Birdbox is somewhat like A Quiet Place, the difference being that, in this case, monsters have shown up. If you see them, you will kill yourself. So they won't kill you, but you'll kill yourself if you've seen them. So it's sort of like a mashup of The Happening, which is one of the all-time worst movies freaking ever, and A Quiet Place, which to me is one of the all-time best horror movies. Bird Box is, I don't think it's a horror movie at all. To me, it's a suspense film because there's not really anything horrifying or terrifying in it. Much more of a suspense flick. I think it's really good. It's very well done. Sandra Bullock plays the lead. She's a woman who has 2 children with her, and she's trying to keep them safe and trying to reach a safe place. So, and it's done, they swap back in time, back and forth between when the event happens first, and then 5 years later, when she is forced to go on this journey to try to find a new safe place for herself and these kids. Sandra Bullock is awesome. This is, 28 Days, I think, is the name of the movie she did like 20 years ago, where she was an addict and she was in recovery, which I think is...
Not to be confused with the zombie movie of the remarkably similar name.
28 Days Later, exactly. So,
I thought I swear I thought it was a sequel and went, wait, what the hell?
I think that's the best work Sandra Bullock has ever done, is 28 Days. She's phenomenal in that movie. She's usually not pushed to be a great actress in most of the movies she does. She doesn't have to, because she's a great comedic actress too, so she does a lot of comedies. She is phenomenal in this movie. She's great. So for that alone, it's worth watching. It didn't make my list of like the best movies of the year. Wasn't really close to it, but it's still really good. The one thing it fell down on where it could have been more terrifying, there's a scene where someone is looking at pictures, drawn pictures. When you get to that scene, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say this could have been more terrifying. They could have done a better job representing something. I'll just leave it at that. But Sandra Bullock is great. It is a suspenseful film. Definitely worth watching. No idea why it's the internet's darling right now, but definitely a good movie.
The internet is a weird place.
A very, very weird place. You know what's another weird place is, get myself a little segue, is the world of Black Mirror. This is a series that's been, originally was on BBC. Netflix picked it up. They've just finished their 4th season. 5th season is going to premiere. Actually, I think it premieres this month. It does premiere this year, though, on Netflix. As a little treat, they gave us a feature movie from the Black Mirror universe. It's called Bandersnatch. Very strange movie, which if you've seen any of the Black Mirror things, which are basically the Twilight Zone, but based on technology with a technological twist. So there you go. This is, it's about a kid in 1984 who's working on making his own video game, and it's based on one of those choose your own adventure books, which he loved. So he's making a video game based on a choose your own adventure. Really interesting, really well done. The twist here is the movie itself is a choose your own adventure. So as you're watching the movie, a little black bar will come up underneath as a scene is playing out, and it will ask you to make the choice. The first one it asks you to make is whether the protagonist should eat sugar bombs or Frosties for his breakfast cereal. And with your mouse or with your finger or however you're watching it,
whatever device you're using,
you make the choice, and then the scene continues to play while you're going along. So it's not like they stop. It's not like Dragon's Lair, which fantastic video game back in the 80s.
83, if I recall correctly.
So there you go. I'm surprised they didn't mention Dragon's Lair in the movie, but they didn't. But
that was one of the choices. You can choose to play Dragon's Lair if you click left. The scene with the princess. I made that up. I'm sorry.
But the movie plays out like this, and you have all these choices to make throughout. Let's see. My first run, I went through Sugar Puffs, Thompson Twins, except.
Did you say Thompson Twins?
Yes.
Okay.
He's deciding which tape he's going to listen to, whether it's the Thompson Twins or Now You Have whatever the series was. Now You Got Music, whatever that thing was. But this was the second one. Then whether he's going to pick up the an album by Tangerine Dream or the Bermuda Triangle, whether he throws tea on his computer or shouts at his dad, whether he visits a doctor or follows someone else. So there are literally, I'd say about 15 or 16 choices as you go through this. A couple times they're dead ends. It'll, just stops and say, oh, you're going to have to go back here. One of the cool things is you can always push pause. And if you want to go back, you can always go back and make the other choice. You can just drop right back to it. The movie itself, if you just go through and make choices and somehow don't make any wrong choices, an hour and a half long. But if you want to really have fun, you'll eventually get to the end, and then you can go back from there. I think there are 5 main endings, but there are several differences of those endings. I believe I read there's something like 16 million possible permutations, depending on all how the choices you make go through, because they filmed lots of different scenes. Because, if you make, for instance, if you have Sugar Puffs and Thompson Twins and you refuse the job and you watch Tangerine Dream and you shout at your dad and then you visit the doctor and then you bite your nails, everything after that is going to be different than if you chose the Frosties and listened to Now You Got Music and took the job. And if you take the job, you got to do it, so you got to go back and refuse. Spoiler, but that's in the very early part of the movie, and on and on and on. So it's different from a movie in the fact that it's almost like a game, because
I was about to say it sounds video game-esque.
Yeah, but it's all cut scenes. So you can think of it that way. I literally spent almost 3.5 hours yesterday watching Bandersnatch, because I went back, and you don't have to. Typically it probably will take you, I would say, 2 hours, because again, you're probably going to hit some places where you're going to have to go back. But it's just not a big deal, and it's a different scene. And if you do have to go back, way back, it is a very fast recap of what happened before. Literally takes maybe a minute. Very entertaining. I really enjoyed it. If they'd just done this as a straight movie, no interaction whatsoever, would have been enjoyable. It's an enjoyable story, has a couple of interesting twists, has a lot of interesting twists because of all the different paths you can make, and the fact that it's about a guy designing a choose-your-own-adventure, and it is a choose-your-own-adventure movie, it's just brilliant. And depending on what path you take, that actually comes up in the movie. So really, really interesting work. I don't know how often this would work. I don't think this is going to be, this is a new form of entertainment, and we're going to be watching just as many of these as we are regular movies, because it's a much longer process. I read that it took them, I think, 5 weeks to film this, and normally it takes about 2 to film their typical length. So a lot of work went into this, obviously. But I don't think this is like the new wave of entertainment, but this is going to be an interesting sidebar.
We're going to find out later, I think it's this year actually, that they're coming out with an actual choose-your-own-adventure movie. What worries me is it's going to be in theaters.
Yeah, that's going to be a little, they would just have to go by the majority vote, right? So,
I guess. I don't even know how they're going to vote, because most of the theaters I've been to don't have buttons on the chairs or anything, and you have to turn off your cell phone.
Yeah, I would assume you'd have to have your phone on, and you'd have to have an app, or they're going to install switches, maybe like the D-Box thing that they have at AMC theaters, which I meant to mention a while ago. D-Box is basically, it moves your chair around and has like extra speakers and makes the thing shake and tilt and blah, 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 and it's really overrated, and it's pretty stupid. I can see that working that way. But again, the way Netflix put this together is like, it's rare that anything actually stops, because typically for the choice, a scene is playing out and they give you the choice. You got 10 seconds to make the choice. If you don't make the choice, it'll just go onto a default setting anyway. So it's not like, I screwed it up. I thought the implementation of this was brilliant. The movie itself is really good. Really enjoyed Bandersnatch. The technology they put into this to make it work as an interactive adventure kind of thing, it was fantastic. And again, if you want to get the full experience, make sure you got the afternoon or the whole night set aside, because it might take you 4 or 5 hours. Seriously. It's kind of crazy, but it's very fun. It's an entertaining story. It's I'll just say this: if you haven't seen any of Black Mirror, most of the stories are not happy. So Think of the Twilight Zone. Most of the Twilight Zone stories weren't happy either, so there you go. But definitely worth watching, and really looking forward to the next thing that they do. And apparently, again, Netflix has done a few of these before for kids' films, but this is the first adult thing they've done, and very well done. Really enjoyed that. I think I really enjoyed all three equally. All three are different, but definitely worth watching any of those three. Birdbox, Watership Down, Bandersnatch.
And Metropolis, which is mandatory for you to see at some point anyway.
Of the four, you should watch Metropolis, because especially if you're listening to our show when we focus a lot on science fiction, fantasy, Metropolis is like the granddaddy of them all, basically. So Metropolis is a must-see, for sure.
See? 4 things you should go see. Although by go see, I mean in the living room. Because, use the good TV. Normally we end the show with, you need to get out and go see a movie, but you know what? Stay home and see a movie.
That's pretty much it.